My name is Fred Yamoa. I was born in Ghana to Bishop and Mrs. Yamoa many years ago. I schooled in various places, including secondary college, Brentford College, University of Cape Coast, and I found myself in the UK at the Oxford Brookes University and then University of Kent for my doctorate. And I've since been working in various institutions of learning around the world. Basically, in Ghana, I've taught at KNUST for about 2 years, and I also have been at University of Kent, Sunderland University, and then I moved to Hertfordshire, and I also went to Brunel University, and I'm currently a senior lecturer at University of London, Birkbeck to be precise. The reference to African Church is not directly what I was seeking to look at. If you look at the title, Mending the Breaking Code, African Christian Spirituality and Human Progress. The emphasis there is rather about the outpouring or the expression that comes out from religious beliefs. So I'm not so much interested in maybe the number of churches and what goes on in the church in terms of the rituals. But what I was interested in is that if you have a group of people who believe in something, then the actions and the deeds of those people have to reflect something. So when I look into either the Bible or my own experience, I do realize that Christianity should also factor into what we do, human development. So if we take to the basis, what in terms of my own trend, what I foresee is that if you have, let's say, more teachers, then all things being equal, the educational system should be getting better. So if we have more churches and we have more pastors and we have more gospel singers, then you expect that society should also become gradually, there should be something changing. And let me put it in historical perspective. Many years ago, when the Christian churches started, every village wanted to have a church. Because when a church comes to the village, you're most likely to have a school, you're most likely to have a clinic. So every chief was welcoming churches, and they were not even buying this land. So gradually, you do realize that this emphasis on social ministry seems to be drifting, and it's now more towards an individual's well-being, making it sound as if one person gets better, the rest will automatically get better. So, but if you look at the gospel, it's about sharing. So that is why I chose to talk about spirituality in terms of the outward expression. There are people who may believe in God and may not even be members of a particular church, but they still believe they are Christians. And I expect that the more religious we are, the better our society should be. I mean, if you take Ghana, we say that we're about 70% of us being Christians, but we also agree. And nobody will dispute this. We say that we are corrupt. I mean, it doesn't tie in. And that's why, if you look at beyond introduction, I mentioned that there is a paradox. A paradox in the sense that we have more churches now, we have more Christians, we have more religious people, but society does not seem to be getting better. Right. When it comes to the basics, from my understanding, and as I try to stick to what I have experienced, having been brought up in a mission house, my understanding of the Christian faith was that it was a force for good. A force for good in the sense that Christianity does not talk about just your individual well-being. Because if you look at the life of Jesus Christ, all he came to do was talk about unfairness in society. He came and he was friends to the poor. He was friends to those who were trampled upon in society. So church, and if you refer to the book of Acts, it's recorded that the people shared to the point that there was nobody that was in need.
Yes.
If you look at Jesus saying that if you have one share, so if you have two shares, give one to your brother, then he tells you that faith in Christ, or Christian faith, is not so much about you, the individual, getting everything for yourself and then others going begging.
So, no matter the condition you are suffering from, after eating this toffee, pray that they should allow you to get pregnant and give birth physical. Whatever you are looking for, if it is contract you are looking for, pray over the toffee that after eating this toffee, may they work this out so that you will get the contract physical. If you want money, pray over the toffee that after eating this toffee, the spiritual works president, the real angel of God, angel of God, and his father Jesus should work money for you physical. They have 5 ways of working money, whether they will place it in your bank account or mobile money account physical, whether they will place it on the ground or in your kitchen for you to pick it physical, whether they will uplift your businesses so that a lot of money will come in physical, whether they will bring.
So I find it interesting that if you look at our pulpit these days, all the messages that come is that, oh, come and get this and then God will bless you, God will do this. Everything is you. I even think that this idea of God bless you should be changed to God bless us, because it's about us. And you know that our destinies are tied together. We breathe the same air. So if people pollute the air, we all suffer. And I think that is what the plan of God is for all humanity. So I believe that the church's message is changing. That's why I say the emphasis is shifting from the collective to the individual. So what is happening is that instead of sharing, I mean, if you are maybe a big man in society and then you are well off, when it's your birthday, you go and buy some bags of rice, you take it to a children's home and say, I'm celebrating with them. But it shouldn't be so. I think it's not about alms giving. We have to freely share, because that is the tenet of the faith.
Let your powers to enter into this coffin.
It's interesting that you asked about why the breaking code. It changed from time to time when I was working on this book. At the point, it was the broken cord. It was broken. That's what I felt, that the cord is broken. So the cord between African Christian spirituality and human progress was broken. But I did consultations with some theologians, and they referred me to the fact that it cannot be a case where everything is off. There's always a remnant. And one of them referred me to Elijah, who at the point told God that they've killed all your prophets except me, so kill me as well. And then God opened his eyes and he said, there's so many who haven't bowed to Baal. So the understanding is that, and I think it's clear that wherever you go in African countries, there are still people who are sacrificing a lot to make sure that others have comfort. If you take Ghana for instance, there are people who are working in orphanages, people who are sacrificing in some way or the other. Some we don't even hear about, but they are helping. But the point is that that is in the minority, and that doesn't seem to be the template that we are all promoting, which the church or religious bodies should be promoting. All right, I think we could take it from this help these churches to set up here in Africa. The same church, through their leaders, were able to ask for independence. So if you look at the Anglican Church in Ghana, it's independent from the Anglican Church in England. I think the only church that has still held tight with their kind of European contemporaries is the Catholic Church. All the others, the Presby, the Methodist, the Salvation, I mean, they're all independent. But that tells you that with time, we took over as a people. So in terms of the change, what you then saw in those days was that, yes, there were a lot of mission schools, count them, the Presec, the Achimota, the Fansipim, St. Augustine's, name them. And these are kind of our premier schools at the moment. What has changed over the years is that, from our understanding, is that the message in the pulpit has changed from the collective well-being to individual well-being.
I'm coming to prove to you I'm a rare angel of God.
Yes.
This is the time to prove to you I'm a rare angel of God. If you are in this auditorium, let me see your shouting.
Yeah!
I'm coming to prove to you that I'm a rare angel of God.
Je vais te montrer que vraiment je suis un ange de Dieu.
And to me, that is the truth. And I must say that I don't think I have discovered anything that is new. I refer in that book to a book by Professor Chrissy Dixon, who happened to be a president of the Methodist Church Ghana for some time ago. I mean, he's passed away now. In his book, he made mention about African Christian spirituality and its expression in 1973. So what has happened is that this thing has left at the back, but nobody, or we haven't come to the point where a critical mass of people are saying that enough is enough. Let's revert back to the collective well-being of the message, instead of saying that it is self. So you get yourself, and then when you have enough, then you can give to charity. To me, that is not the precept of the message. So as we go ahead, and I think you can also testify to the fact that these days, all the radio stations are packed with Christian messages. But what do they say? It's all about God has anointed me to meet your need. So society is not the focus. How many churches address the needs of the people within their community? And sometimes I do joke and say that if you have a church that is close to a prison, then you've got to be careful. Because Jesus said the yardstick for going to heaven is that he says, when I was sick, you didn't care for me. When I was in prison, you didn't come to visit me. So if your church is closer to a prison, then you may not have any excuse. I mean, that's just by the by. But to buttress the key point, I do realize that the Christian church is drifting. There is a missing sermon in the Christian pulpit. And I think that has to be addressed. And we don't have the time to wait. All right. I mean, if you ask any African, even if you ask President Kufuor, I think he's on record having said that Africa has suffered from bad leadership. So leadership has been attributed, poor leadership has been attributed to the problems that we have. My argument is that these leaders are nurtured in one church or the other, in one religious body or the other. So if our political leaders are failing us, then the churches or the religious groups that nurture them, places they go for their spiritual nourishment, must take their good portion of the blame. So I'm not looking too far. What I'm saying is that we are all religious people. So we find ourselves in one church or one mosque or the other. And if leadership is not delivering public good, then to me, the message that they get from the churches is part of the problem. So that is why I connect the breaking chord to the message that is coming from the pulpit.
Hallelujah!
He has given me victory.
Give him praise!
Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
Indeed, the earnest, heartfelt prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Nkululi is not here because of his intelligence. He is here because of God's mercy upon him. God could have led Pastor off to any of the thousands gathered here, but instead Portia was called
He
forth.
has given me victory. Over and over, giving me victory. He has given me victory. Hey! Hallelujah! 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 Yeah! Hallelujah!
Somebody celebrate Jesus!
Hallelujah!
Not at at all. I mean, as I elaborated or narrated about the history, I think even people who find that it is credible to call themselves pastors, they do so because of the record. Because if there was no good image to call yourself pastor, nobody would be running to become a pastor. But what is happening is that, unfortunately, they seem to also be breaking that good foundation. Because if someone comes to you now, or you hear your daughter come to you and say, a pastor wants to come and marry me. Years ago, you do the sign of the cross and say, thank God, my daughter is going to be married by a pastor. But I'm sure today, if you're in the same situation, at least you do your checks to be sure that, so you ask yourself, there's that kind of credibility issue that is coming up, where I think that we need to look at. So if you look at the question, that it has not been all bad news, but gradually we are drifting.
It's gone. Another day has come.
Lift up your trophy.
Do something new.
Sing with me, sing with me.
In my life.
Yesterday
is gone.
Oh Lord.
Another day has come. Do something new in my life.
And that is why I say a breaking cord. So the caveat is that if we allow the cord to be broken to the point where it cannot be mended, then we are in a very bad shape. And I say that not because I'm just a critique of the church or religious bodies. I say this because in the affairs of the world, Africa and sub-Saharan Africa is in a weak position. My belief and my understanding is that faith in God is a good leveler. So if we waste the opportunity, I don't think we'll be able to compete with the West. If you look at the media in the West, they don't paint Africa in any good light. So if Christianity or religion fails us, then we are going to be in trouble. So above all, I think that hasn't been all bad news. There are glimpses of evidence that shows that even in today's world, in Ghana, in other African countries, yes, you see the church doing good things, but I'm convinced that the cord is gradually getting broken, and there's a big drift in terms of the core message that the church should be fed with. It's about restoring and maintaining human dignity, and not just taking a few to say that, oh, you shall be blessed by God, and then you decide what to do. But it has to be a collective. Thank you. I think that the starting point will be for the church to recognize that there is a problem.
God's mercy upon him. God could have led Pastor off to any of the thousands gathered here, but instead Portia was called
He's
forth.
giving me victory. I'm looking over, giving me victory. He is giving me victory. Hey, hallelujah, 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 yeah, hallelujah. Somebody say.
I have friends. You may know that my dad is a retired Methodist minister, and I've got many friends and contemporaries who are pastors, some bishops. I've had this conversation with them over time. There's been some reasons that have been adduced to what is happening. Some are of the feel that if what is happening is not from God, then it will not stand. So I shouldn't be overly worried. But that does not give me any comfort, in the sense that the kind of thing that is happening, how can we wait to say that things should happen until God himself comes to intervene? I'm sure if your child is playing towards a live fire, you make an attempt to take the child off. You wouldn't say that you want God to come and intervene. So that is one point. The second one is that some also do say that we shouldn't be too much worried, because the Bible has said in the last days there will be false prophets. But I also question that when it comes to the timings of God, I don't think we are in any good position to calculate those times. He says 1 year is like 1,000 years before him. So it's most likely And when we talk about Jesus coming, it's been a long time ago. I'm not doubting that Jesus will be coming, but 1,000 years as compared to today, it's a long time. And in our lifetime, whatever we do today is what determines what happens in future. So if we don't correct the wrong today, and then we say we are waiting because the Bible has said it will happen, then the next generation is being pointed away from God. We are building a faithless society where everything is reflected. Now, spirituality seems to be equated to your material wealth. That if you have a lot, then it means that you're very spiritual. It means that you're very close to God, which I don't share that idea. So the point you make about what should be done, the church must recognize that there is a problem as a starting point. And when that recognition is done, this whole unnecessary competition which is going in the church must understand, or religious bodies should understand, that it is about the mission and it's not about the rituals. It's not about what you wear to church. It's not about the songs that you sing there. It's not about who preaches the best message. It's about what we do. It's about our influence in society. So it seems to me that a lot of emphasis is being placed on the rituals and not the mission of the church. You can have the most beautiful church building. You can have the best preacher in the world. You can have the best orator, somebody who can quote all the Bible verses. But if our influence in society is dwindling, then I think that the church is failing. So we must identify that there's a problem and be ready to restore that message that places the human being, the well-being of the human being at the center. I mean, James in the Bible had something to say about the fact that you don't go and preach to people who do not have anything to eat, who do not have clothes, and say be warm. So you just go talk to them. And we know there are lots of resources even within the church, but how many are being helped? Rather, sometimes through some of these prophetic messages, some really false. Poor people are rather exploited, and there are many cases reported. So the church must recognize the problem and be ready to restore. And if you look at what the people in the early church did, and let me say that they didn't have the Bible at that time, the early church, but they shared to the point that nobody lacked. If the church should share, or if religious people should share, nobody should go hungry in Ghana today. But I think there's enough food to feed everyone. People sleep under bridges, people sleep in rough places. What are we doing? Why are we not taking them to our homes? My simple message is that we have to go back to the basics. And to me, when I say the basis is that for God so loved the world. Okay, it didn't say for God so loved humans, the world. And that presupposes that the love of God for the world goes beyond just the human being. And here I'm drifting towards things like destroying the environment, like the menace of Galamsey. If you have people who profess faith, religious people promoting Galamsey to destroy water that people need to drink, and I'm told that the kind of diseases and illnesses that were not even recorded in the past, they are all coming because of cyanide poisoning and other things. So the basic that we need to go to is that God has His image in every human being. So the image of God is in everyone. So God expects us to make sure that that image is not obscured, but rather everyone should be given the opportunity to show that natural talent that God has given him or her. So until everyone is come to that level where they will be able to show the glory of God in their lives, everyone coming to the point where they will be able to express the talent that God has given them, the church's work is not done. So the message should always be about distributing human dignity. And not just to say that when you see a poor person passing by, you just say, oh, look at them. And some will say, oh, they have ancestral spirits in their home, or it is the devils or demons in their house that are causing that. Some even say, well, when you preach to them, they don't listen, don't mind them. They deserve what is happening to them. So I think that the church should go back and preach the message that God loves everyone. Everyone has the image of God. And our key point is to make sure that the welfare of everyone becomes the core message at the church and the pulpit. So without that, we are just beating around. We are not tackling the core message. It comes to the basis. And I think the imagery that Paul creates in his book about the body, that if the hand says that I'm not going to get up and work today, what will happen to the body? If the eye say I'm not moving, what will happen to So in the eyes of God, I think that every human that he has put his image in is part of that body. So if you are okay and then somebody else is not okay, then we are not in the right thing. What is the big commandment? You say, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and what your mind. And then you love your neighbor as yourself. It's as simple as that. The question is, who is your neighbor? Your neighbor is everybody. Indeed, I really think that opinion leaders, people who lead churches, family leaders, are people that will benefit from reading this. But I'm not really fussy about who buys the book or who doesn't buy it. It's been on Amazon and Kindle. My point is that there should be a kind of a gradual building up of a movement for us to recognize that we have a problem. So in terms of target, I'm targeting people who lead, people who instruct others that yes, where we are not sitting rightly. I mean, I've had experiences in places like Kenya, Tanzania, and in some parts of Africa, where I think that the message seems to be the same, that people are not being given hope. And it's all about the fact that if you speak to young people, they've been made to think that through their prayer, one day, some miracle will show up. And then those who are well off, they also think that their well-being is all about the self. Okay, so their spirituality is all about self. So if they are doing well now, they completed university, and by some network they got a good job and they are well off, they think that it's because they are good Christians or they are good Muslims, that's why they are there. So to them, it's not about sharing. So in terms of target, I would want as many that are sectioned, especially people who want to be engaged in terms of in their mind to read it. I'm happy to even send word format to people who want it if they are not going to buy the book. I'm happy for everyone to read it. I mean, I would say thank you for the opportunity, and I'm thinking that hopefully there will be a kind of a gradual build-up, a movement of a sort. I've been asked to set up a church so that I can propagate my message. But I think that we've got enough churches in Africa and there's no need to have more churches. It's all about the witness of the church in society. So when we see the church having a good presence, and it's not about come to my church and see how powerful my pastor is. No, it's about what the person see you do in your life to influence society. So I think that the church or religion is a force for good. But if we misuse that, then we'll be in trouble.
Sawa consider pada, ashana heaven when yenipa. Kwaso no kwalo no waso asofu intumo wanka. Sika samini tichapuli